everybody, and we are live. Welcome to today's episode of Amazon's FireSide Chat. As usual, it's me, Anisha, from the Amazon App Store team, and I'm joined by Mario. Hey, Mario.
Hey Anisha, hey everyone. So for those that don't know me, my name is Mario, and as Anisha just said, I work with her in the Amazon devices, apps, and games developer relations team.
Cool. So before first thing, basically, make sure you use the chat to engage. We will try our best to answer any questions you may have. We are here every Tuesday at 6 o'clock GMT and 10 a.m. PST. So don't forget to subscribe, follow, so that you get notified every time we go live on Tuesday. Be respectful in the chat, use respectful language. That's a given. We just want to make sure that we're creating a great environment for everyone to feel comfortable. So without further ado, let's introduce today's topic, which is increase productivity with split screen and drag and drop. So on today's episode, we're going to be talking about how you as a developer can help users increase their productivity when they're using Fire tablets. And with two mechanisms, we have split screen and drag and drop. And what we're going to do is show you a demo. We're going to go into a little bit of detail on the code, and then we're going to do a live demo to show you how you can implement it yourself. So I will hand over to Mario to introduce the topic and give you a little bit of background as to why we think that split screen is important and drag and drop in terms of productivity.
Thank you, Anisha. And yes, I would say that a good point to start and to talk about this is to look back and what happened over the last couple of years. As you know, we had the pandemic. We're coming out of it, I would hope to say, but it definitely changed the way that we not only work but also interact with our devices. And if we look at the next slide, we actually look at what happened in the productivity category in particular. This is data for 2020. We're still crunching data for 2021. But in 2020, we saw 226% growth in app engagement amongst productivity customers. And this is, I think, not a surprise, right? Like all of a sudden, we're using our devices in a different way. We want to do more with these devices. And tablets have been very much impacted by this. 62% increase in productivity app users month over month across the tablet app store for 2020. So there's been a lot of growth during the year in terms of how users take these devices, tablets, and start engaging more with them and want to do more. They don't just want to use them as entertainment devices anymore, but they really want to produce content on it. And there's been also 25% rise in demand for video and collaboration tools related to education and at-home learning. Again, we all been very busy during the pandemic. We're all working from home, and again, we want to do more with these devices. So next slide, please.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, it seems to be lagging.
It's frozen.
So no luck. I will add it back to the stream. Give me 1 second.
No worries. So I think again at the end, there's been a lot of demand for new content, and this has also had a knock-on effect, a direct effect on what developers were doing as well. With more demand, there was also more developer focusing on this type of content. And when it comes to the Amazon App Store, we saw 135% increase in work-related apps submitted in 2020. So again, there is demand for it. There is a hunger from users and customers about doing more, and there is the desire for developers to get more into work-related and productivity type of applications. And so we went back and we started thinking about what can we do to face this as Amazon, to help customers and also help developers. So last year we actually launched a new device, which is the all new Fire HD10, which is just the latest iteration of the biggest tablets of the Fire tablets line. It's a 10-inch device, but this time this device actually launched with a specific spin, which is, of course, it still retain all the good features of being an entertainment device, but also introduce some new productivity facing features. So next slide, please. So first of all, there are, for the first time, the Fire HD10 came in two different versions. There's been the Fire HD10 and then an additional SKUs called Fire HD10 Plus. They are very similar. The display is the same. The processor is the same. However, the Fire HD10 Plus comes with more RAM, so it's you can run even more intensive games and even better productivity tools on it. It also comes with wireless charging. Both have expandable memory, and they both come also with USB-C, which has been a feature that's been requested by a lot of customers. So, but one of the most interesting bit is actually when it comes in terms of accessories for this device. For the first time, a Fire tablet is being made available with an additional accessory, which is a detachable case, which is a keyboard as well. So by all means, this keyboard turns the Fire HD10 into a productivity device. You can use it as you would with basically like a small laptop. And this device has, has 400 hours use per charge. Is also USB-C and allows you to quickly charge your device as well. So it's in a small package. You get all the goods of a productivity device. So now the natural and obvious question is, that sounds great from a hardware perspective, but what can I do as a developer, as an app developer, to introduce more productivity friendly functions to my apps? So the next step is actually to think about what are these features, and we have been thinking as well about what are the features that we can enable at the OS level to allow developers to create richer experiences for productivity level applications. And that is very much what it comes to adding two features, that what we're going to talk about today, which is split screen on one side and drag and drop. So I will pass now over to Anisha, which will introduce us to these features.
Thank you, Smart. Sorry, I was dying a little bit. I've got allergies this time of year, which just means I cough a lot. But I'm okay. I think I'm okay. But if I do start coughing, I'm going to pass over to you, so our listeners don't just have to listen to me.
Worries.
So as Mario said, we've got two great features from the Fire HD10, which is split screen and drag and drop. So first thing I want to do is look at split screen. So why is split screen important? Split screen allows us to use these two applications as once, as you can see in this little video here. You can just, by a click of a button, enable your app to go half screen, and this works in both portrait and landscape modes. So you can use both these applications at the same time, which means you can do two things at once. You can watch a video and check your email. And I personally have used this myself. Like when the pandemic started, I actually had a Fire tablet, and it was really useful to use it like as a secondary screen or to watch a video while writing some code. Very useful feature to be able to do two things at once. So how do we enable split screen? Or before we go into it, let's talk about how split screen came about. So split screen has been available from Android API 24. And as the Fire HD10 is based on API 28 or Android 9, we can use this feature. So the apps run side by side. So how do we implement it? So it is actually very, very simple to implement split screen in your application. You just have to set this attribute here to true. So the attribute is Android resizable activity. And if you set the activity to true, the activity will be launched in split screen and freeform modes. And if is set to false, that means the activity does not support split screen mode. And if the user attempts to launch the activity in multi-screen mode, then the activity will take over the whole screen. With FireOS 7, which is API level 28 or higher, this value is by default set to true, unless it is purposely disabled by you, the developer. So what you can also do then is define the size of the layout in default or minimum width to ensure that when your application is running, that even when it's in split screen mode, what the user sees is enough information on the screen, and there is a minimum width to which your application should run to ensure that it's running smoothly. I'll just pause here in case, Mario, you wanted to add anything.
No, I think that is super important to add this layout, and I would say in particular to build applications with multiple layouts, and we will talk about it in a second, because there are a lot of different situations in which that happens. It might be the user taking action, but it might be also a different change in configuration, and I know we're talking about that in a second. And there is also a new situation in which screen resizing is also very important, and defining how that behavior looks like for your application, which is when your application goes into desktop. So we touched on that in some previous sessions, and we've been talking about how now you should be able to release your applications on Windows 11 using the Amazon App Store, and then to run your applications on a PC. And that is very much a kind of a productivity-friendly environment, right? Like where you have multiple applications running at the same time. That means that most of the time, or at least very often, your application will likely run in windowed mode. And what that looks like, it depends on what is the size of the window that the user has opened. So it could look like a landscape application, but it could also look like a portrait phone-like application. So it's important to define what is the default and minimum requirements for your application to run. But at the same time, to consider that now there are multiple different situations and environments in which your application might potentially run.
Yeah. And I think this is what helps create those fluid user experiences, is ensuring that even if your application is in split screen mode, you've accounted for it in the design and it does resize back to what is expected. So let's move on to how we can use the layout to determine our app's behavior. So when we're in split screen mode, we want to handle these multi-window configuration changes correctly, such as what will happen if the user resizes the window. So you can really easily do this again by just adding this tag called Android config changes attribute to your manifest, and it has 4 values that you can set. Orientation. This will prevent restarts when the user's screen changes orientation. Then we have screen size. This value prevents restart when the orientation changes, but only for Android 3.2 or API levels 13 and above. And then we have screen layout. And this value is necessary to detect changes that can be triggered by devices such as foldable phones or convertible Chromebooks. So ensuring that we take into the account all these different scenarios, we can give the user that fluid experience. That means we are taking into account any changes to the configuration. So when we ensure that, what we can do is this will ensure that when the configuration changes, so if the customer resizes the app or moves from landscape to portrait mode, with a method in the main activity, your activity can receive a callback to on configuration changed instead of being destroyed and recreated. So with this method, you can edit your views according to those configuration changes that were defined in the manifest. I'll pause here again. Mario, did you have anything to add?
No, I would say that again, just the only thing I want to add is that this is just good practice as an Android developer. So here we shouldn't be teaching anything new in this sense. Like if your application doesn't already manage configuration changes by default, you're probably doing something wrong. Like you should go back and implement on configuration changes anyway, because even if your application is just designed to work on phones or tablets, the case of which you're moving from portrait to landscape is a classic one, and your application should handle that situation gracefully. However, again, it's now even more important when we're talking about multi-window, because again, that is technically triggered as a configuration change as well. So yeah.
100%.
Awesome. I don't see questions so far. Please, guys, again, a reminder, if you have any question, if we're going too fast and anything at all, please let us know, and we can we can pause and add the question in the chat. If you're on Twitch or on YouTube, doesn't matter. So I want to now jump into the second feature that we are going to talk about today, which is actually just a little bit more complicated to implement. It's not very complicated. Don't worry. So this is actually a short video of the demo that we're going to see later today. This is what the final demo will look like. What we want to have is to have two different applications, and to be able to drag some text from one application to another application. So this looks very easy and trivial. When you look at it, you're like, oh yes, of course, it's obvious. I just tap on one and move it to the other app, and then it's some text that goes into a text field, and that is sorry, obvious. I was about to sneeze, but
Just allergy season, isn't it?
allergy season.
Oh no.
Sorry, guys, apologies. So again, it looks trivial, but actually there is quite a lot going on with these two applications. So let's jump on it and see what it looks like. So next slide, please. Great. So first of all, again, as I said before, we have two applications. We have the source application, which is where we initiate the drag action. In order to do that, we need to set up a listener for the on-drag start action. It's literally a callback that sits there and is waiting for the user to tap on something and start dragging something. Then we need to have a second application, which is our target application, which is where we actually receive the drop action. This is where the drag action ends and the user lifts the finger and drops something on a specific view. So this will be done by adding another listener for the action drop. So literally when the user drops something, and we can apply this listener to a specific view. So we can say, if it drops on this specific view, then you go and take action. So what it actually happens is that the source application packages the information that it wants to transfer through the drag action in an object that is called a clip data object. And this information is then passed to the target application, which then unpacks the clip data and displays it accordingly, or takes an action, or does whatever you want. But usually it's about displaying some content. So this is the breakdown: source app, target app, dragging something, and then we have listeners both for the drag and drop, and then we pack and unpack the clip data. So fairly easy concept, but let's see how it is actually implemented. So this is in our source application. In particular, we will call this source activity, is the main activity of our source application. What we have is, as you can see, we are in the onCreate method of the of our source application, of our source activity. We have a text view, which we just initialize. And then what we want to do in this case, and this is just for the sake of the demo, we create a source string, which is the actual string that we want to move from one app to the other. So in this case, we're hard coding the sentence hello drag and drop. And then what we need to define is we need to define what is the MIME type of the data that we want to pass from this application. Because based off the MIME type, then the target application will be able to identify what this type of content is and displaying it accordingly. So in this case, we create this by creating a new array of string called MIME types. And in this case, we just adding one MIME type, which is MIME type text plain, which is part of the clip description class. So very easy. We create this array. So the next thing that we have to do is to create the listener. So next slide, please. And what we have to do is to create a on drag start listener. This is actually a in Android. This is done by a helper class which is called drag start helper, and the on drag start listener class. It's actually, as the word itself explains, listens for the drag action to happen. So in this case, when on drag start is called on specific view, as you can see, it has two arguments, view v and the helper, which is what we use to initialize this listener. So when this on drag start is called, we create a new clip data. This is where we have to package the information. So we create a new clip data, which takes a few things. It takes a clip description, which is the type, literally describes the type of content that we have packaged. In this case, we passed the MIME types that we created before. So in this case, plain text. And then the item itself, which is the most important thing, which is in this case, we're passing the source string, which is hello drag and drop in this case. In a real world scenario, you would package probably some dynamic string, or you would fetch from an edit text, or whatever you want. But in this case, we simplified by just passing a normal string that we have hard coded. Then we have to add some flags. This is important because Android has some security in place when it comes to what data can be passed from one app to the other. So in this case, we just want to pass data that can just be read by the target application. So we have to set the view drag flag global and view drag flag global URI read. These are just two basic flags that we have to integrate in our drag and drop action. Otherwise, it will just not allow us to pass the information. And then we just return this using this method start drag and drop, where we pass the clip data. And then there is this help. We use again the kind of helper class drag shadow builder from view. And this drag shadow builder is actually a helper class that allows us to have a shadow of the text when we move it around. As you've seen, and I will show you in the demo, again, when you move some text from one window to the other, you want to have this sort of like half transparent shadow of the content that is like a placeholder for what you're actually dragging to the next view. So next slide, please. And finally, we need to create a drag start helper, and then we pass the view that we want the drag action to be listened to, and the listener itself. And then we just attach the drag start helper. So fairly easy, very easy code. By the way, everything that I have here is in the standard split screen documentation for Android. So this is not, by the way, this is not FireOS specific. It works on FireOS, but this is part of the Android APIs. So it works on normal standard Android as well. So once we've done this, we are in good shape. We have created the source application, and we can start dragging something into another application. Now we need to do the next step, which is we need to implement the target application. So by the way, one thing that I want to say at this step is that we created two applications for demonstrative purposes to show that you can drag from one app to the other and how you do it. However, usually you will be building one application and you might implement actually both these features or just one. Like your application might just allow you to drag some content to another application. You might actually even want to drag content from one field of your application to another field of your application, and you do it the exact same way. However, or you might just want to receive the drag action. So again, I just want to clarify that you don't have to build two applications. This is just for demo purposes. But you can apply whatever you learn here to your entire single application. So let's now look at the second part, which is okay, now we have the drag action. Now let's look into the sorry, Nisha, you can move to the next slide. We have implemented the first action, the drag action. Now we want to implement the drop action and how to listen to the drop action. So next slide, please. So now we're talking about the target activity, the second activity where we have where we are receiving content. So what we have to do is, first of all, we need to have the view where we are receiving content, where the content, when it is dropped in our app, that's the view that is populated. So in this case, we're using an edit text, which will receive the information. So we create a new edit text in the on create of our target activity. So next slide, please. So what we have to do here is now to add a drag listener again, but this time we are listening for an action called action drop. As you can see here in the on drag callback, we need to put an if, which says if the drag event get action. So we are extracting the action from this drag event that we're receiving from the listener. And if this action is action drop, then we need to unpack the clip data that comes with the drag event. How do we do that? We need to create a new clip data item, which is a text item in this case, because we know that we're receiving a string. And then we take it from drag event. There is a method called get clip data that will give us the whole package if you want. And then what we do is we get the item at position 0 because it's the only item that we're getting. It's treated as a list basically. So we just get the first item 0. And then what we have to do is we create a new string, which we call drop string, and then we extract the text from this text item, from this clip data item that we have, and then we convert it to string. So at this point, we have the string that we can use. So next slide, please. And before we do anything, we also need to have a drop permission enabled in our on create. So this is a drag and drop permission that we need to initialize. Is very easy done by drop permission, and then we add request drag and drop permission the drag event. So literally, we're asking permission to listen for drag event. And then we just set the edit text to text, and we use the drop string that we had before. And then finally, we release the permission because we don't need it anymore. So once we've done that, whatever drag and drop action happens, if there is a drop action and there is a string, you can put all the flags in there to check if it is an actual string and so on. But then the string is actually deployed to the view. So I think that this gets us to the end of the actual presentation deck. But this is not the end of today, because everything that I just saw you in the presentation, I wanted to show you live in a live demo with actual code to show you that, we're not telling you lies, that is so easy to do, that is the actual code that we have in the two applications. um, so before we do that, and as I'm setting up my environment, I want to leave a couple minutes and see if there is any question that you guys want to ask before we jump in the live demo. Any question at all? Anisha, I don't know if you have anything to add to everything that I said before.
No, no, great. It's great demo. I'm sure everyone can't wait to see the code and it working live. But yeah,
Awesome.
if anybody has any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. I also dropped the
Please.
link for the documentation for split screen in the chat, so you can have a look and explore this a little bit more.
Awesome. And since we're kind of halfway through, let me also always remind you guys to share what you're learning, maybe a screenshot of today, a sentence that was interesting for you, and share it using hashtag Amazon Fireside Chat. It helps us, grow the channel and share this with the broader community. So please do on Twitter, on LinkedIn, on Facebook, wherever you want. But it really helps us, getting the word out. And if you have also any questions outside of the live stream sessions, you can always pop us a question using this hashtag, and we'll try to do our best to, get back to you as soon as we can. So without further ado, I will now pray, as usual, praise the gods of demo to assist us as I am sharing my entire screen. All right, so let me go straight into Android Studio. So this is the first application. This is the source application that we want to create. This is where we want to implement the drag functionality. So as I said before, we have a first of all, it's a very simple layout where we only have one view, and what we do is, again, as I said before, we initialize this text view, which is, as I can show you, is this text view that we have at the center of our layout that says hello drag and drop. We have just hard coded this in the view itself. However, we also hard code the string. We have to hard code the string as well, because we need to have the string that we want to pass. We could extract it from text view, but that doesn't really matter. What it really matters is that we have a string that we want to pass. Again, we have the MIME types as well. So remember, the only thing that we have to do is to create the drag listener, and to set up the onDrag start method of the listener. We create the data, the clip data. We pass the clip description, as I said before, which contain, and then we also pass the clip data with the string itself, with our source string that, as you can see here, is hello drag and drop. And then we add the flags, and then we return the drag and drop with the drag shadow builder. And then, as we saw before, we just create the drag start helper, and then we just attach the drag start helper. So what happens when we actually run this application? So I have here connected, that I can show you. I have an actual Fire tablet. I have it. I'll show you on camera as well. I have an actual device here, and what we will do now is we will actually run these applications directly from Android Studio into our tablet. So I am now again running the app, is compiling and installing, and is now launched as a full screen application. As you can see now, if I tap on hello drag and drop and I long press on it, I can move this around, right? And as you can see, there is this sort of half transparent text. This is going back to the code. This is what is created using this class here drag shadow builder where we pass the text view. So in this case, we're telling create a shadow of this text when we are dragging the view. So what we're actually showing is the text from the view is not really the text that we're passing. We could be passing, for example, you can use drag shadow builder to show an image as well. For example, if you want to drag an image from one app to the other, you can do that. You can basically pass any view you want, and it will create a shadow image of that specific view that you can drag around. So now we are in good shape. We have our drag action, but what happens when I have now to drop this somewhere? So we go back to now we created another project called target application, and this is the application where we actually drop the content. As you can see, this one has also a very basic layout as just one edit text in which we just put the text, the placeholder text, drop here. So we have a drop zone for our content. So this edit text here, we just need to initialize. As you can see, if I click on it, this is the basic edit text. And what we have to do is we have to handle the drop. So we set an on drag listener again, and in the method on drag, so when the drag event is triggered, which is passed again as a argument to on drag, if the action inside the drag event is action drop, so literally if the user has dropped something, what we have to do is to unpack the clip data. So we take the text item and we get it from drag event, get clip data, get item at index 0. And then, as we said before, it's just a matter of saving this into a drop string. And then we set the text of our edit text to the drop string. So we're literally taking whatever text is inputted and dropping it inside the edit text. Remember that we have to use the request drag and drop permission. And then we just release the drop permission when we're done. So what does this look like? First of all, I can launch this application again. And if I go back to my tablet, now I have a full screen application that says drop here. So by itself, this app is not very useful, right? There's not much that I can do. So now we go back to the first feature that we talk about today, which is the split screen feature. So if I go and tap here on the multitask button, as you can see, there is a new button that appears on top here, which is this two windows button on top. And if I tap on it, I actually go into split screen mode. So now we have two applications in split screen mode. That means that now I can actually take the drag and drop text and move it to the other app and then drop it here. As you can see, the string that we packaged in the first application is now unpacked in the second application. So this is this is just shown in terms of text, but you can do this with a lot of different things. You can do this with images as well. You can drag an image to the next. Keep in mind that what you're packaging is not really the image itself, but is usually the address of an image. So you might want the application to then that information to be packaged in the right way. So then the second application can go and fetch that image again. The other thing that I also wanted to show you is the fact that this implementation of drag and drop that we have implemented, it actually works with other apps as well. So let's say that I'm opening in split screen, not my target application anymore, but the Silk browser, which is the browser that comes with the Fire tablet. Let's say that I want to drop information in here where it says search the web. I can go to my hello drag and drop, and then I can just drop it here. And as you can see, the browser now shows hello drag and drop, and that's because the browser is also capable of unpacking this text. To be honest with you, most edit text implementations will by default take the text, and that is across the board. It will work across different applications. But if you want to implement a specific behavior in your application, you do it by using the code that we just showed today. So everything that we just showed in today's presentation is also available if you go and search the multi-window implementation for Android. And one thing that we are working on is to take this source and target application and open sourcing for you. So you can also go and download this and start playing with it straight away. It's not available yet, but we plan to make it available for you on GitHub. So stay tuned, and over the next few days, we will actually release, or the next few days, hopefully days, maybe a few weeks, we will actually release this content. So I'll stop sharing my screen and I'll come back and see if we have any comments or any question, actually. Hopefully, the presentation, I was able to show you like step by step what we were doing. As you see, the exact same code that we had in the slides before was used for the actual application. And it's as easy as that. You could take the same code, replicate it in your apps, and it will work out of the box on any Android device, of course, assuming there is API Android 7 or later. Brilliant. So, guys, any question? I don't know, Anisha, if there is anything again that you want to add, anything that I forgot to mention, because I might.
No, great demo. Thanks for that, Mario.
No worries. My pleasure. Always like to do this. Are there existing applications that use split screen really well? Yes, of course. There are a lot of there are quite a few productivity applications, like a lot of like Office suite related applications and text editing applications. As you can see, a lot of the default applications on the tablet, like the browser, works out of the box. Prime Video has an excellent implementation of split screen as well, where it really changes the UI. Actually, let me see if I can show it to you. I think it's a great example. If we use Prime Video as an example, let me actually clear this. Prime Video. You might be able to see some of the stuff that I usually watch because it's my account. So if we resize the application,
oh wait, Mario, I think the application it's not actually.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
I'm not sharing the screen yet. Sorry, guys. Let me go back and share the screen. 1 second. I don't know what happened. Here we go. Now we should be able to see it. Anisha, give me a confirmation if you can see it. Yes, great. So this is Prime Video, and this is in split screen mode, right? So what happens, as you can see, there is a certain distance between the icons here, and even the content that is shown on screen is very similar to the landscape version of Prime Video. But what happens when I resize it? As you can see, the application it detects that there is a configuration change, and it redesigns the application. And this is very similar to what you would find Prime Video on a phone, for example, because it's in portrait mode and is very much similar to a phone. So in this case, it just has increased the size of the images, and even the icons down here. They actually have less space between them because they are now easier to use. And as you can see, if I am resizing it in a different size, again, it changes the way that it displays the content. So again, this is an Amazon application, of course, but it's a great implementation of a different use of the real estate that you get on your application based on on how much screen size you're getting on your device. So hopefully that has given you an answer. Could you drag and drop from the Prime app to your Source app? I don't think that Prime Video has implemented any drag and drop feature. To be honest, I think they might have in the what is called in the search text. You might be able to drop some content, but I don't think that they have implemented. I don't think they have implemented dragging anywhere because I mean, like from in media and entertainment app, I'm not sure what you would drag to something else. That is more. That's why I mean, Prime Video is not really a productivity centric application. You would do that with maybe a text or maybe let's say in an email composing application. That's where you would probably move stuff from one app to the other. But yeah, I don't know if that. Hopefully that answers your question. And Chan, thanks for always great questions. I don't know if there is anyone else that has any other question, or I don't know if there is anything you'd like to cover that we haven't touched on today. But again, it's a great feature. It's very easy to do. By the way, you can still rewatch this presentation. You can also go on YouTube, and we have an entire video, actually 2 videos dedicated, one to split screen and one to drag and drop. You can just follow there. Again, you can go on our YouTube channel, and there is a on-demand video that you can consume at your pace with all this information and more.
I would think this is a good time to introduce next week's topic.
Yes, go for it.
So next week, we're going to be looking at voice transport controls with the Android Media Session API for Fire TV. So it's going to be a really interesting session on how you can integrate voice with Fire TV.
Yes, it's going to be a fun session. We will have our friend Alexa coming in place, and we can talk to Alexa, and again, we're going to mainly be focused on media and entertainment application, but it will easily show you how powerful it is, and again, media session integration, similarly to what we're seeing today for for split screen and drag and drop. Once you understand how it works, it's actually not difficult to implement, but it's a great addition because it really changes potentially the way that your users interact with your video and media content. So please, next week is going to be a very exciting session. You should definitely join us. With that, I think we are done for today. So Anisha, as usual, thank you so much for your insights and your presentation.
Thank you.
And I don't know if you want to add anything.
No, good. Excited to see you next week, and then we have a break after that for Easter. So.
Yes. So next week is the last session before we break for Easter. Then we're off. I'm looking forward to a little bit of vacation as well. I know Anisha, you are as well.
Definitely.
And I am having Anisha create way too much videos, so she definitely deserves a well-earned vacation. By the way, you should go and check out some of the new videos that Anisha has created on our YouTube channel. So again, go back to our YouTube channels. There is a very cool new video on optimizing apps on Fire TV that you should go and check out. So again, we will see you again next week. So before we break for Easter. And so again, come to see our cool live demo of media session integration, Alexa, and voice. So yeah, it's going to be fun.
Thank you.
All right, guys. Thank you, Anisha. Thanks everyone for watching, and see you again next Tuesday. See you. Bye-bye. Have a good week.